Imagine yourself in the most difficult moment of your life, the one in which anguish tightens the chest, hopelessness takes over the mind, and everything seems to collapse around him. All of us at some point have come across days when the darkness seems impenetrable, days when the burden of the world becomes unbearable and the urge to give up whispers in our ears. It is in these moments that the words of Epictetus, one of the great masters of Stoicism, can become a light at the end of the tunnel. Epictetus was not a philosopher born in a golden cradle. He began his journey in life as a slave, chained not only by his body, but by the brutal reality of an existence that for many would be unbearable. Yet, even in the depths of servitude, he found an inner freedom that few know about. And that freedom didn't come from the circumstances around him, but from the way he chose to face those circumstances. Have you ever stopped to think that in the midst of chaos, there may be a hidden force within you? A force that, if discovered, can transform suffering into growth, despair into resilience, and pain into wisdom. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Let's explore the path that Epictetus traced to face the darkest days, a path that, if followed, can transform your life. This video isn't just about ancient philosophy or abstract musings. It's about you, about your ability to resist, to get back on your feet, and to find meaning even in the most challenging moments. Let's find out how Stoic philosophy can be applied directly to your life, how it can strengthen you and guide you through the storms of existence. Get ready for a journey that will take you from the shadows to the light, that will show you that even in the most difficult moments, you have within you the key to overcome any obstacle. Just like Epictetus, you can turn your adversities into victories. So why is this content so important? Because it will help you realize that difficult days don't have to define you. They are an opportunity for growth, a chance for you to discover your true strength. Stoic philosophy is not just a distant theory, it is a practical guide to life. And in this video, you will learn how to apply it in order to become more resilient, more aware, and above all, more prepared to face any challenge that life presents you. Stay with me until the end and discover how the wisdom of a former slave can change the way you face your own difficult days. Imagine yourself in the depths of an existence where every aspect of life conspires against you. There is no comfort, there is no justice, there is not even the basic right to be who you are. Now visualize a figure in the midst of this chaos. Epictetus, born 2,000 years ago, a slave in Hierapolis, deprived even of a proper name. He did not begin as a philosopher, nor as a master of great minds. He started out as nothing, as a shadow under the yoke of slavery. Epictetus was tortured. Her cries of pain mingled with the oppressive silence of the night, while her flesh was marked by suffering. Everything he produced was taken from him, and yet every blow, every injustice shaped not only his body but his mind. Imagine having everything taken from you, being buried alive, exiled from any form of human dignity, and still triumphing. Not a triumph of riches or power, but a triumph of the soul, a victory over fate that seemed sealed. He said that for every situation there are two handles, one that knocks you down and another that lifts you up. While most cling to pain, to humiliation, Epictetus chose the handle of resilience. He focused on what was under his control, his opinions, his values, his desires, his confidence in himself. The world around him, dominated by powerful men and women in Nero's court, could ignore him, but Epictetus began to realize a liberating truth. Even as a slave, he was freer than many of those who ruled him. Imagine the irony. Those who oppressed him, who thought they were free and powerful, were actually slaves to the power, ambition, pleasure, attention of others. Their minds were captured by distractions. Their hearts were wounded by petty grudges. They lived lives full of excesses but empty of meaning. Epictetus, on the other hand, found in the simplicity of life a freedom that few know. Musonius Rufus, the mentor of Epictetus, was a man of deep wisdom and inner strength. He was born into a noble family in Volsinius, Italy, but dedicated his life to Stoicism, believing that true nobility was not in blood but in character. Rufus was not just a philosopher. He was a living model of the principles he taught. Even facing the wrath of the powerful, being exiled for his beliefs, He never bowed down in the face of adversity. For him, philosophy was not a distant intellectual practice but a way of living, an art of transforming everyday life into an expression of virtue. It was in this environment that Epictetus developed. Rufus saw in the young slave a potential that transcended his condition of birth. Under Rufus's guidance, Epictetus did not learn only about logic or ethics. He learned the art of living, to apply philosophical teachings in his own flesh, literally, since his living conditions were marked by pain and physical suffering. Rufus taught that Stoicism was not a theory to be discussed in noble halls, but a practice to be lived in the midst of the storms of life. Rufus believed that true education lay in teaching a person to govern his own mind, to control his passions, and to remain calm in the face of trials. Epictetus absorbed these teachings with avidity. He began to understand that his true freedom depended not on external circumstances, but on his ability to master his mind and his reactions. From this point, Epictetus became an autodidact in philosophy, immersing himself in the Stoic texts and reflecting deeply on how to apply these principles in his daily life. As Epictetus grew in wisdom, he also grew in stature as a philosopher. Rufus, ever mindful of his disciples' development, realized that he had prepared Epictetus not only to be a free man, but to be a guide to others. When Epictetus finally won his freedom, it was not only liberation from his physical chains, but the realization of his inner freedom, a freedom won through mental discipline and the constant practice of Stoic teachings. With his freedom, Epictetus became one of the greatest teachers in Rome, attracting students from all walks of life. Among them was the young Hadrian, who would later become emperor. Epictetus's influence was so profound that his ideas reached Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, who would later become one of the most fervent proponents of Stoicism. Epictetus taught that true nobility lay not in riches or titles, but in the ability to live according to reason and virtue. He showed that even in the face of adversity, it was possible to maintain dignity, inner peace, and clarity of purpose. This message, transmitted from Rufus to Epictetus and from Epictetus to the world, echoes through the centuries, reminding us that, regardless of the circumstances, we are capable of forging our own destiny. What Epictetus teaches us is not just the art of resilience, but the ability to live a good life regardless of the circumstances. Circumstances don't make a person, he said. They only reveal who he really is. The Stoics remind us that we are all actors in a play where we cannot control the role we are given, but we can play it with excellence. We can't choose where we are born, who our parents are, or how others treat us, but we can control what we do with the cards we are dealt. Epictetus shows us that even in the worst conditions, we can create our own destiny. We can learn to master our own mind, to excel in our role no matter how small or insignificant it may seem. After all, as he said, with determination and skill, we have much more power over our lives than we imagine. Too often, we find ourselves stuck in a cycle of unrealistic expectations and false happiness. We relentlessly seek the approval of others, believing that external validation is the key to our well-being. We live a life guided by illusions, where success is measured by standards that are not ours, where happiness is sought in places where it has never been. Each time we reach a new milestone, be it a promotion, a purchase, or a relationship, we feel a brief glimmer of satisfaction, only to be consumed by a new dissatisfaction, a new need. Epictetus warned us of the dangers of living a life based on false premises. When we put our happiness in the hands of others, we become slaves not to physical chains, but to desires that will never be satisfied. We live in the hope that something or someone will give us the peace we long for, but the truth, as Epictetus showed us, is that true peace, true happiness, can only be found within us. False expectations take us away from what really matters. They make us believe that we are incomplete, that we need more, always more, to be happy. But Epictetus teaches us that happiness is not in accumulation, but in acceptance. Accepting that we can't control everything, that we can't choose our past, but we can choose how we react to it. We can choose to live authentically, focusing on what is under our control. Our attitudes, our values, our thoughts. We live in a society that constantly pushes us towards consumption, towards competition, towards comparison. We are told that we need certain things to be happy: a bigger house, a newer car, a higher social status. But by blindly following these dictates, we turn away from ourselves. We lose sight of what really brings us satisfaction: the tranquility of a well-disciplined mind, the serenity of knowing that we are living according to our principles. Life is imperfect, and trying to shape it to meet unrealistic expectations is a recipe for frustration. Epictetus invites us to see life as it is, with all its imperfections, and to find beauty and contentment in simplicity, in what is genuine. He reminds us that true freedom is the ability to live according to our nature, not to be slaves to the opinions of others or external circumstances. And now the big question before you is this: will you continue to pursue these false happinesses, letting yourself be carried away by expectations that will never bring you the peace you seek? Or will he from today on begin to seek within himself the strength and serenity that Epictetus discovered, even in the worst conditions? How are you going to change the way you live your life so that it is truly yours and not a reflection of the illusions imposed by the world around you?